All right, good morning. It's 9 a.m. We are back for our second budget workshop. Our continued session originally from January 13th. We do have a quorum with all board members present this morning. Let's begin with an invocation and then we'll go from there. Lord, thank you for the productive week we've had for the county and its citizens. Please be with us today as we go about the business before us. Please guide us with wisdom and knowledge. Please be with all families who are struggling with coronavirus and other illnesses and any that have recently lost loved ones. Please be with us as we all travel home and travels over the weekend. In your name we pray. Amen. Good morning, sir. So we will start with building inspections this morning. Short is all we're looking for, nothing fancy, just kind of any key changes from year to year that you are thinking about. And even if it's not reflected on the budget now, we'll welcome any comments, suggestions you have, ways, things you might need in the future, etc. Open conversation.
Probably the largest item, as you can see here, is a replacement vehicle, and I understand there's been some talk about maybe moving that somewhere else, but that's my biggest increase. Carla can better speak to the personnel because we're going to add, I think we're going to add at least one into this salary.
And that's the change I was talking about yesterday. One person that had been formerly under county administration will be now under building inspections.
Okay. So a move, but not an actual addition.
Correct.
Correct.
Who was that?
Is not.
Who was that? Who was the person?
Janet.
We're going to pause just a second while she.
Should we sit with live?
Coming on. Not streaming?
Looks like.
Okay, I don't know if it's because the internet is down. It shows 4 people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see it right here. Here we are.
Okay.
Great.
Myself, look at myself.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the only other changes on this would be, you can see books and subscriptions at the bottom. This is going to be a code change year, so that means new books, and they're not cheap.
What's the cycle of code? Like there's a
Big
change every
3
3
years.
years. Okay. Just curious.
And we're now under the 2015, so we're already, it's 3 years behind when it starts. So that's just the way the state works. Other than that, fuel and salaries.
Yeah, it looks like a 65% jump, but see the numbers are so small that it's not made up of much.
And you feel that between you and Janet, let's get everything done?
So far, unless it's going to have to boom a lot.
A lot.
Yes. It would have to at least double from today to look at anybody else coming on board. That's just an opinion, but I think that's probably okay.
Because it is increasing.
Yes.
Not that fast. Cool.
Yeah, with the lumber prices still way up, here at least it's probably a little slower than across the river where the lumber package doesn't matter. If it adds $100 to your mortgage, nobody cares.
Right.
That's what I hear from the guys. So, but that's about it for me.
All right.
Well, that was short and easy, but we appreciate it nonetheless. It's nice to just have the opportunity to talk through and make sure all your needs are being covered.
Nothing else you need or anything you want to say to us?
No,
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time.
I'm easy.
All right.
Thank you.
Nothing wrong with that. Sorry, I'm cheating off your schedule
That's fine.
again today.
So next is DMV. But we have 10 minutes.
You know, I still wonder about these vehicles. I know I sound tight, but I am for the most part. But all these new vehicles, like for Richards, the sheriff's office basically gets rid of them at around 100,000 miles, I think. Nowadays, 100,000 miles is not anything on a vehicle. You know, they're 200,000 mile vehicles. I understand why they do it. I mean, you know, you're talking high speed,
Safety
you're
related,
talking
high speed.
life and death.
Mhm.
They don't want to be sitting on the side of the road because they need an alternator or, you know, but for non-emergency personnel, you know, I mean, I don't know why why, you know, a Durango or the Ford Explorers that a lot of them have SUVs, why we can't pass those down. I mean, they got radio mounts in them. You know, I just don't know why, like last year, I think they did switch one over to,
Environmental or?
Animal control.
Animal control.
Driving the Durango. Mhm.
But, I mean, I'm sure, you know, it's nice to get a,
How old is, Richard? You know?
I want to say it's an 09. It's the white Ford Escape. I don't know if you've seen them driving it, but I mean, it's not terribly old. I'm not sure the mileage on it. Now, Richard drives more than any other department,
Oh, yeah.
probably, but I'm with you. I think we could easily just take a used sheriff's vehicle and
I mean,
roll with it.
Well, and
I
I
don't
would,
know if Kent needs something special. You know, his was like 60,000 once he mounts all the equipment in. But everybody
Yeah.
else, just regular drivers,
yeah.
you know.
well, and even Richards, you know, do you consider replacing one of those really old, what we talk about, the Charger or the one of the, you know,
Crown Vic.
Crown Vic, you know, roll those off. But I mean, if his is functional, but just, you know, for someone who drives all day, every day,
Yep.
needs a new one.
Yeah.
Maybe
Good point.
maybe next week we have time to actually look at the replacement schedule. Can we look at the replacement schedule itself and kind of see tagged on there what's planning to go?
And that might be a good discussion to have with Daryl and his guys, because I know they, like, anytime we have taken a vehicle from the sheriff's department, they kind of look it over. One of them is able to do inspections and, you know,
Mhm.
they kind of determine if it's worth it or not. So that'd be a good conversation to have with him too.
You know, it becomes a point where maintenance makes it not worth it.
Right.
But if it's a nice car and it's functional and doesn't have that many miles, like you said, you can go 200,000, no problem.
Yeah.
And you're probably the most knowledgeable about these things among us. Do you think maybe over the next week or two, doesn't have to be before next Thursday, you could sit down with Daryl and look at that schedule, maybe?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. That's,
I mean, I think between the two of you, I mean,
And what kind of capability that he has at
exactly.
his disposal to determine, you know, whether it's worth keeping it,
Right.
you know, to do an evaluation. Totally get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly not to push them into any place they don't feel comfortable, but if there's a reasonable place to make an accommodation,
yeah,
I
because
like your idea of kind of flowing them
the
down.
sheriff's office doesn't get rid of them because they're broke or
No.
blown. I mean, how many you know, how many ex-police vehicles do you see on the roads? The 90s Crown Victorias,
For years, yeah.
you know, that people buy them and drive them forever. So it's not, their issue with replacing them is totally separate than
Mhm.
than anybody else that just needs
The
a
rationale for
taxi vehicle.
Good point.
Yeah.
And I mean, myself, I would gladly take a used Tahoe or Explorer over a Ford Escape. Any, you know, that would, to me, that's a trade up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a little more. I mean, I could see that, particularly a little more space.
Yeah, more room and,
I mean, he's in that all day, every day, in and out. In and
Yeah.
out.
Is that what he's driving it for, escape?
yeah,
Mhm.
like escape.
I mean, it's a big car. That's not a big.
That's not a big car. Yeah.
Can't use his, it's like a mobile
He's got a little bit of
command
everything in
center.
there.
Mhm.
And, and he does go to the big calls with it and all. I can see his vehicles being, more in line with the emergency replacement side.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Good morning.
You can come sit right here if you want.
I get this under seat.
Oh.
As long as you're comfortable at the table, then we're good.
Yes, sir.
We are live streaming, just so you,
Okay,
and recording, just so you know.
okay.
I wonder if you can. It says speaking, Stephanie. Is she speaking? Hey, Stephanie, can you hear us?
She's muted.
Yeah, she's muted. Well, I'll just,
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
yeah. Are you trying to tell us anything?
No, I'm just listening. I'm coming down from
Okay.
my. I'm just.
Okay, cool. All
That's
right.
great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, let me pull up Virginia's budget. So here's the trends, well, just since 2000. No, that's not the trends. Yeah, it is. So since 2019, which is about when it got started here, just creeping up each year due to more customers and brought on a part-time.
Was 19 a full year?
I don't believe so. Didn't you start in about November?
Yeah.
Is that right? So not a full year. And here are the numbers for you.
So you're projecting more part-time hours next year? Is that what kind of going from like 11 to 16, almost 20? Is that?
Yeah. I put the personnel figures together for her and I just based it
didn't put
on,
the figures together.
I just based it on what Sandra has been working and applied it to next year, assuming the same amount of work needed.
Mhm.
The drop in hospital medical plans. I think that is due to, so another reason for drops in everybody's is because we had budgeted for a 14% increase last year. So these FY '21 figures are somewhat inflated from what it ended up needing to be. So I based our 10% increase, just what I'm projecting, off of actual figures, not budgeted figures. So,
Okay.
but I think
Explains it.
we're,
Big difference.
yeah, I hadn't thought of that yesterday, but I think we're planning on, I'm basing the FY '22 budget on current enrollment and it's just really Virginia. So
Mhm.
yeah, this is what we're spending plus 10% right now.
Okay.
Those telecommunications again.
Yeah,
What?
3,000.
Why would it go from 150 to 3,000? Or was the 150 wrong?
So no, the 150 is right, but we got a long distance bill from MCI that was for like almost a year's worth of charges. And I think Tammy's working it out with MCI to see why we're receiving a separate bill from MCI versus just having it built in with TDS like everybody else. But it's almost like exorbitant charges for DMV. And they do make a lot more long distance calls than probably any other department, but it seems to be an extreme amount, but yeah, we're trying to nix that bill altogether. And I think Tammy's made some progress. What was her last update with that?
Back before Christmas, she said that she had gotten it successfully switched to TDS. She said, if I remember correctly, MCI was charging us like $3 and something a minute a call.
Yeah, it was
And she said when
crazy.
she got it switched to TDS, I think she said that went to
Like
20 cents a minute.
Yeah,
I
I
think
thought it
she
was
said.
75, it might have been 25.
But she said she
Much
did
lower.
successfully get that, but she was still kind of in the works of getting everything finalized.
So hopefully that's much higher than we needed, but
Be cheaper to give them a cell phone and.
yeah,
Well, once we go to VoIP, it'll all be internet, it'll be free.
right.
True.
So there will be no long distance
True.
charges.
That's, yeah.
Was that phone number transferred over from the other?
No, they set up a new phone, gave me a new phone number.
Imagine what, yeah, stranger.
And when we first moved over here, in November of 18, I think, as far as I could tell, the long distance was just like every other phone. And then the day that TDS had something happen in Amelia where all the phone lines were down,
Right.
after that, I had no long distance. I would get a message saying, you're blocked, your long distance is blocked. And then after talking to TDS, that's when we found out that it was set up as MCI. So from that point up until COVID hit, I just didn't make long distance calls unless I went like to Taylor's office or one of the other offices because I didn't have that need at the time. Then when COVID happened, that's when Tammy started looking into getting us long distance. And her only option, she's at the time, was to go ahead and get it with MCI. And then when she started getting those really huge bills, because with COVID, we were having to make all these calls where before we hadn't, because everybody calls with cell phones nowadays.
Yeah.
And gives us cell phone numbers to call them back on.
Right.
And so when she started getting those huge bills, that's when she took it upon herself to start looking into it and seeing why we weren't like all the other offices under TDS. And she finally, back in November or December, I think it was, got it straight.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything else looks good.
Do you, so like you said, you based the part-time off of actuals recently, but you feel you'll have good coverage? Anything else you need to be able to better do your job, serve the citizens?
Well, a second full-time person would be great. But, and she did that right when we came back from, when we first opened up, simply because that's what was needed. And she went above and beyond, because being part-time, she has no benefits. But, and I understand that that might not be, something that would be, feasible, I guess, because another full-time, person would include benefits, but that would be the only thing that really, because if it's two of us, because right now it takes one person to man the phone, schedule appointments, and one person to handle the appointments, the customers that come in for the appointments. And so if we had two full-time persons, it would make it easier. But other than that, the way we have it now is working.
How many hours a week does Sandra work?
Sir?
How many hours a week does Sandra work?
She works, let's see, 20, no more than 25 a week, I think.
I think it averaged
Is
about
what it is.
27. It was right under that 29 cap, but like you said, I mean, there was a time when, I don't remember if you were on
It's
vacation.
8:30 to 2.
Virginia was out, and so Sandra covered
Monday through
more this
Friday.
past year. But on average, yeah, 8 to 2 is her hours.
So it's close to the max that's allowed.
Mhm. Yep.
The full DMV sites do the online scheduling. And is there no option for us to take advantage of any online scheduling options so that at least you didn't have to do as many by phone? I mean, I wouldn't want to eliminate the option to schedule by phone, but.
Right. We'd have to have something would have to be set up, like a particular website or something. It's not the selects that are doing that. They have their own individual site set up. They're not using DMV's website to do it. That's just for customer services.
Yeah.
So we'd have, somehow we'd have to have something set up to be able to do that.
Module and Civic Plus
Yeah,
that could be used.
it would certainly be worth exploring. I mean, for service purposes too, not even just to save you all time, but like you said, you can only answer so many phone calls at one time. You're having to call people back. I'm sure you do the phone tag thing often with them. If at least the ones who are comfortable going online could schedule, that would be good for them and you. And then again, I wouldn't want to eliminate, I think DMV, you can't schedule by phone at all. It has to be online. I think that's a little restrictive for people don't have that preference, but, I wonder if there's somebody that could, do you think there's anybody in the office who can kind of look into that, follow up with one of the other DMV selects maybe and see what they're using, or?
Yeah, we have somebody do that.
I just don't know who would be in a good position to follow up. I mean, maybe if you know some of the other DMV select folks, Virginia, and just ask them, hey, what tools are you using or something?
Yeah.
You're not doing any walk-ins now?
They've,
All appointments?
I'm sorry.
You're doing all appointments or any walk-ins?
We're not advertising for walk-ins. If we have walk-ins, if it's something like a renewal, something like that, we usually can work them in. Title work, we can't because of just the way that we're scheduling. We schedule every 15 minutes. It takes at least 15 minutes to do a title and registration. So normally we can't. Now, every now and then something will come up. Somebody didn't show up or, every now and then we can. But as, general rule, if they walk in and they need a title, usually we have to schedule them an appointment. We're only usually about a week to a week and a half out for a wait. But we have a lot more flexibility with other types of transactions.
Anything else at all, budget related or not, while you're here? We're ahead of schedule. So do you have anything else for us? We're here to listen. So.
Not that I know of.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and chatting this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been a challenging year for your team and your
It
department,
is,
especially
it
with
is.
COVID. So thank you for working through all those changes.
No problem. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I can add
Oh, nice.
one of our personnel things.
Mm-hmm.
She's got to have 2 people physically present to open the office. And she's got to have 2 people physically present to close it, which really does screw up how you schedule your part-time, Somebody's got to be standing there. And
So we have to utilize Taylor.
And I can do one or the other, either open it or close.
Mm-hmm.
It is tough to schedule a part-time person when that's a requirement.
Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you.
So is a second full-time person something you want to propose?
We're getting along. We're getting along. If it was I don't think we've ever run into a crisis. We've had maybe 1 day or 2 when there was a family emergency or something and we couldn't cover that we've been closed over the 2 years, but we've been lucky, I guess. I wouldn't propose it now, but it's something that could be covered.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of thing could happen even if you had 2 full-time.
You got the right one, say. And with the COVID, you just never know when somebody's going to say nobody comes in.
Okay.
You're going to play it like it is for the time being.
You don't ask, you don't get.
I'm going to, just personally, I'm going to put it on my list of let's revisit when we see where the whole budget comes back to. I just got some, follow-ups like that. It's not just, hey, let's take another look.
The only thing that I would add to that is if it was up to me and it was no, limitations or whatever, I would say I would prefer one more full-time or to make my part-time person full-time versus 2 different part-time people.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
It just make the office run smoother that way.
Yeah.
But,
That makes sense. Just curiosity, do you think Sandra is interested in full-time if that was an option, or would you have to search for somebody new?
If it included the benefit package.
And if it was full-time?
Because she didn't, like I said, when we first opened in May, She did. She was doing full time. And she was just, I mean, of course, she was getting paid for it, but there was no benefits to it. But, and she didn't, it worked fine for her as far as her personal schedule. She didn't mind doing that. But she just felt like if she was going to do that on a regular basis, she would prefer to be able to have the benefit package.
And we couldn't continue that without giving it to her because
That's not legal.
there's certain exemptions. You can run beyond 29 for a while, but it's going to get you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's only fair to her too. Yeah, I hear you.
With the additional manpower, would it improve cycle times? You said you're about a week and a half out. If you had the full time, I mean, could you pull that down, or do you not have the capacity even with the extra?
It's kind of hard to say. Right now, we're just getting bombarded with Chesterfield. The way it works
Keep it
is
online.
Chesterfield residents and everybody surrounding there, prior to COVID, they were used to going to Chesterfield customer service for anything and everything, to renew their decals, just to anything. Now, Chesterfield is out to like April on their appointments because they're trying to just do what a customer service can only do, driver's licenses and certain types of titles. And so Chesterfield, as well as the call center, are saying, call Amelia. They're not telling them Goochland, they're not telling them Hopewell, Hanover, any of those that are a little bit closer to them, they're telling them, call Amelia. And, which is fine, but that's why we are so backed up. Because the majority of the people that call us, I take anywhere from 40 to 50, 60 calls a day, and the majority of them want title appointments. Now, the thing with the whole COVID and the shutdown, nobody stopped buying vehicles. But what we're seeing is, I think, at least from our standpoint, the people that are calling us, we've kind of gotten caught up with the people that bought stuff back when we were closed, but they're still buying stuff. So we're getting more calls than when people would just walk in. We're getting more calls for appointments.
That's what I'm wondering, if we could increase cycle times, we'll increase revenue.
But if it's
But with the
if
additional
it's a
stuff.
short-term problem, then another part-timer would be the solution, a temporary part-timer.
That's what I was asking, how that worked, or if more manpower will increase cycle times per transactions per day, or.
Do you have two windows or just one?
We have two windows.
You could have two people on the window all the time. If you had.
We could, unless you are unless we're limited to the social distancing. We do at some point have two there. We make sure that if somebody comes in, they don't have a mask, we won't bring a second one up to the window. And we have the bench out in the hallway. So when we have an extra person in there, we try to keep them as socially distanced as we can.
Is there a divider between the windows?
No, I mean, there's a short wall, but that's not really that's basically just for the construction of it. It's not to separate people that are standing out there. And a lot of times we get customers, they bring people with them. They kind of spread out. So it's challenging to a certain degree, but we have that ability. But we don't do it right now simply because, we can't be on the phone scheduling an appointment and helping a customer.
That's probably the bigger.
What we do with the scheduling, we're pulling up a customer's record and trying to get as much information as we can. A lot of times by doing that, it turns out it's something we can't do. And so we don't waste their time scheduling them for an appointment for something we can't do.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. What's the training time, you would say, if you were to bring someone else on? How long do you think it would take to train them on this role?
Well, Sandra came in, no experience, in March. And by the fall, she was comfortable enough to be able to be there on her own if it happened. DMV, the protocol for DMV is the checks and balance system. So regardless, one person processes it, at the end of the day, someone else has to go back and audit it, basically. So that's an already procedure, DMV procedure that's set up. But yeah, for the first, I mean, it was with her situation, she started in March and then 2 weeks we were closed down. And so she basically, what she learned in those 2 weeks, she had to relearn when we opened back up in May. But I would say, by the fall, she was comfortable and she's definitely is comfortable with everything now. But it's kind of a, learn as you're shadowing. You're doing it, but you have somebody there watching you as you're doing it to make sure you're getting it right. And
I mean, I would think if I know what Chesterfield DMVs are like, if y'all have ever been there. If we get these Chesterfield people hooked on the quick, convenient service, they'll continue to come out here.
Yeah.
If we can service them and serve them, I think that, it'll be permanently gain business. And, most people, where they buy a new car every 3 to 5 years anyway. So, this could be an opportunity for growth. If they're pushing it here anyway, we give them what they want, they'll probably come back and never go to those DMVs again.
You're talking about enhancing the quality of service.
Right, yeah.
Well, you don't have obviously this is just the expense side, the revenue side. I mean, I know we get the reports every month, but I can't in my mind picture the trending that we've seen from there. Yeah, you might have a sense right now how significant it's looking, or do we see a lot more revenue now than we did pre-COVID?
it's basically pretty close to the same.
You limit the throughput.
We're getting more, we're doing more title work, which, is slightly more revenue because of your sales tax. But we're seeing a lot of the used vehicles versus new. So we're looking at a minimum sales tax.
The only way for it to make financial sense is to increase the throughput. Bandwidth. And that's another person.
But the reason it's kind of basically the same is because before COVID, it was just walk-in. So we might sit there for half an hour to 45 minutes and not have anybody come in. Now we have them coming in every 15 minutes. So that's kind of why it's.
Would it make sense to have just a clerical type person that doesn't need much training to make appointments, and then other two people would be doing nothing but servicing people?
We could do that. The only thing is, if you talk about, when you start talking about a third person in that office, we only have 2 computer terminals.
Well, if it's a person that's only making appointments.
And the appointments.
From home.
Well, they can be trained to ask the certain questions. But at some point, we're going to want to pull the customer's record up, because a lot of times, like for instance, if they have a personal property stop on their record and they're calling to renew decals, we can say, hey, check with the treasurer's office before you come to your appointment. So it's not a wasted appointment. So that's kind of why we try and pull the records up when we're making their appointment. It just makes it easier to make their appointment. So
can't be done remotely? Bringing up a record? Is it on a website?
DMV is
Strict?
tough with their security. I'm sure there's a way to get it done, but it wouldn't be simple. I had tried to help close out one day from where I was. It was really hard. No, you can't even put the program on your computer. It's got to be a locked office.
Just doesn't make sense to have a qualified, trained customer service person making appointments.
I will talk to Barry Brown, who is our point person, about what the other selects are doing and see if we can come up with some recommendations.
Yeah, I think my note that I made to myself is very similar to what Roger just said. Like, Sandra seems overqualified for just doing phone appointments. I think if you could move her to I'm hoping most of the time you're not having to do the appointments that she has, but if you can move both of them just doing servicing all the time and find somebody else to make appointments.
And
Yeah.
fix the window so you can have two people at the same time. Put a petition
Yeah,
or
a little
something.
bit to do a petition. All right. Well, we are past our scheduled time. Very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today and all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Do you have a mask, Lee?
I can't wear one. I social distance as much as you want. I stay in the back of the room. I can't wear a mask. That's been, last time I tried,
All right, we'll let you stay back there then.
I understand all the stuff.
Okay, we can hear you.
We can hear you. All right, well, thank you. You heard a little bit more. We went a little bit more into operations on that conversation. We are live streaming just for your awareness there. And Carla's bringing up the budget. We've just been with everybody really just going through what are the changes that you have either already put in, or even if it's not in what you've submitted, what do you think might be needed for you to be able to do your job better, serve citizens better, increases, decreases, et cetera. So just kind of walk us through and we'll have questions.
All right, well, my basics is the same as last year. We just increased it a little bit in anticipation of increased cost that's gonna come forward. Of course, we have in my office one part-time person that's mandated by statute, my assistant, which is comp board, and myself, and of course, my administrative assistant. Those salaries are pretty much determined by the comp board, so
Right.
we don't deal with that. The rest of it, basically the cost in my office comes down to renewing books, having to go to the training that we have to in order to be able to maintain our licenses, those type of expenses. And we know they're going to go up a little bit. We generally try to increase them at 5 to 10% as a guess as to what they're going to go up. Some of them basically remain the same. They're the cost every year is going to be the same thing. Dues for professionalism, they generally remain the same. I don't think they've increased in a while. So basically my budget is increased only in the areas where we think there's going to be an increase that's coming down the pike this year. Books always go up. And you got to have books. We've got to have the statutes. We've got to have the resource materials in our office. Those are the type of things that go up for us every year. Other than that, there's not that really big a change, nor do I anticipate that big a change. I think every 3 to 5 years, we look to get a new computer because it gets outdated, start having trouble with it. And we generally go through the technology department here to get a new computer. So we don't put that in our budget.
What is ADP equipment? I've seen it in a couple places.
Automatic processing or automatic data processing. It's such an old term. I had to look it up to see what it even meant, but it's computer, hardware, software.
Because on here you had a number for, up there you don't, but on here you did.
That might be something the website, it just didn't carry over.
I took that
I'll ask
to
them.
mean what we would anticipate eventually needing to replace computers. That's
ADP.
and that generally stays there and is constant almost every year. But like I say, about every 3 years or so, we're looking to replace computers.
Yeah, but
Carla, it looks like-
just so you're clear what
What's
we're
the
doing.
amount? Yeah.
It's actually, you added a line, federal forfeited asset is not on my list, and then 2,800 is what's on ADP on my list.
We have no
Oh, so they.
Federally. Forfeited asset
Okay,
money.
so that's off by a line.
That's, the federal government requires you to either spend it all or return in portions of it to them. So when it came in within the year, we spent it. Otherwise, we're gonna be giving it back. So that's been gone for a good little while. Now, we do have an asset forfeiture account that, for example, We had a large drug bust. We picked up a lot of vehicles and things out of that drug bust,
You see,
and we
see
sold
that?
all that stuff. The sheriff gets a certain amount, the state gets a certain amount, and I get a certain amount, and that's our asset forfeiture fund. And basically, that pays for my phone.
Okay, yeah, it's just it was off by a line.
Okay.
what you were talking about around the books, subscriptions, it all made perfect sense to me. But
Yeah.
Carlos, gonna get back to the other view. I didn't see any increases projected on those.
Because we don't anticipate this year, from what we're hearing, they're not gonna jump prices on us.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sometimes,
You're talking overtime, not necessarily every year that you.
right,
Okay.
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Only we get information that your books are gonna cost you more this year. And we've dropped a couple of subscriptions that we don't feel like we need, because we can now go on the computer and get that information if we really need it. Having it in books
I don't know why it's not showing.
is what we did before, so.
Yeah.
We try to keep the budget pretty close to what it is each year, with anticipated increases for certain things.
See, so as on the screen, at least, you're down slightly in budget. And it looks like it's because
That's the
of
insurance.
decrease. That's what I was gonna say, decreases in insurance.
And-
Otherwise, you're pretty steady
Yes, sir.
with just minimal, yeah.
And we keep talking about why telecommunications is going up, but there is a more legit reason for a Commonwealth attorney. And Harriet had explained this, that because they have sensitive information, it was recommended that they not share the same line with the registrar's office. Actually, that might be more of a registrar's rule, but they were recommended to get their own
Yeah, we have to have.
line,
They
dedicated
want to
line.
separate out, because we come off of the registrar's office. They have.
Right now, they share internet.
information
Now they have to get.
that we are not supposed to be able to access. And technically, well, we can't, but technically we could access that information. So they suggested that we break off and have our own separate. Now, we have a separate line that goes to the sheriff's office so we can get reports and things without having to walk across the street every time we need something.
It's ridiculous.
That's already set up.
I mean, you can have a router with two different accounts on it.
I don't know.
Right.
Well, I actually don't find your cost for that so excessive. It was the, like, seeing $3,000 for the DMV compared to this, like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, because you're talking, it's,
No, the DMV one was.
that's just crazy, for sure.
A lot of it will help if we go to VoIP, because there's no long distance charges. You just have the internet charge.
Although it won't change his because it doesn't, not switching the Bethel building.
Oh, right.
I'm not sure why on that one, but
Maybe we should.
maybe it's a phase over time too, so I'm not sure. Okay. So anything, I mean, you don't have any requests, which is fine, but do you feel you have anything you need?
Other than we've got to look and see if we're gonna need a new computer. I don't know that at this point we're looking to expand anything. I would like more space in my office, but I understand that, because I've got a part-time assistant who's working in the hall. I've got my office, I got the administrator, it's office, I got victim witness, and I got my assistant in an office. So the part-time guy is basically working in the hall. But I don't think, short of moving somebody out of that building, that we're gonna be able to expand, and I understand that. And we're working best we can within the confines of the space we have.
We do have discussed some plans that would hopefully help some of that. And if, I know voter registration is looking at some alternate space too, and then be able to expand your office and others. So
Yeah, well,
that's a fair request.
the original plan was where JPO is now, was supposed to be my conference room.
Yeah.
And then the office that I'm using as a conference room now would be an office, which would have taken care of that. And they've left the doorway in the back, so I assume that sometime in the future, they're just gonna cut that sheetrock out and I'll have access to that.
Well, thank you. We appreciate y'all coming over today to talk to us on that.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me.
Of course. Thank you.
Y'all have a nice day.
You too, sir.
Thanks, Lee. All right, the 2,800 is moved.
Okay.
All right, who's next?
Jill.
Jill, okay.
I got one question. When DMV was talking about the full-time without benefits, what is the determination or what's the reason? Is there a full-time without benefits and a full-time with?
No, if you're full-time, you have to get benefits.
Jill, if you're
Okay.
comfortable, you can sit up.
And it's it can be like, what is the load rate? 40% for a full-timer benefit cost?
About 40%.
40%.
But so 40 hours is considered full-time, but with health insurance, if any part-timer works over an average of 29 hours, you have a look-back period each year and you look back the prior 12 months. If an employee who's part-time has worked over 29 hours on average a week, you have to, by federal law, offer them health insurance. Not necessarily the other full-time benefits like VRS, any kind of retirement, but health insurance.
Okay.
That's, as of 4 or 5 years ago, a newer.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Before I start that, so we talked about, the spikes because of vehicles. Obviously, the computers are not as large of spikes, but I wonder if that similarly, we just kind of put computers on a replacement schedule and could just consolidate, where that is and look for a little more flat of approximately the same amount each year
Yeah,
for
rotation.
refreshing computers.
And that could be with the fleet, fleet capital, we could have
That's
that
where
as part of that.
the IT department would come in handy.
Yeah, I mean, if you,
Or the IT department, yeah. Makes more sense. There you go.
okay, that's great. All right. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Thank you. Just so you know, we are broadcasting and recording, so you're aware of that. Thanks for coming in and talking to us this morning. I know I haven't gotten to meet you in person I know. It's been a long time at least.
It has,
So
yeah.
I'm Joseph Easter.
How you doing? David
Jill
Phillips.
already. You know Sean for sure, right? You met Roger too. Okay. All right.
And if you guys don't know, this is Carol Hicks. She is one of the trustees and she is the chair of the budget committee for the library. And that's why she wanted to come in.
Wonderful. Glad to have you too. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of new people, I thought I would just start with kind of explaining where the library gets its funding from
Wonderful.
and why we make certain requests and spend certain things. So I made copies so that you guys have, I just thought it would be a little bit easier.
Perfect.
Okay, so it's really simple, even though it looks complicated. The line that I've highlighted, which is books and subscriptions, everything in that line is state aid. So when we're looking at what the county is giving us, we subtract that from our total, which is at the very bottom. So that's important because in order to receive state aid, what the county gives us has to be equal to or greater than last year. And if it's not, we're no longer eligible for state aid. So that's why I try to, make sure we really hit that mark. I don't like asking for money just for the sake of it, so I try to keep it as close as possible. So that's where we're at this year. We, looked forward to what we expect is going to happen going forward and reduced a lot in the non-personnel expenses because COVID has actually given us a lot of discounts, like permanent discounts on things. So we were able to do that, but we moved it up into personnel, which is actually where we need the most money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with this budget, we're asking for, if you approve it, we would be able to open the library another 8 hours a week.
That's good. So can you just walk us through a little bit more what you are expecting to change in the stat? Like you see some moves from, if I'm reading this right, like less part-time, more.
Right.
Yeah, just walk us through that maybe.
Okay, so.
We're not as familiar with the number of people that you have too. Maybe that helps.
Okay. Well, it's varied a lot. So I have been the director since 2015. And in that time, I was trying to count it up. We have hired at least 6 part-time people. So 6 part-times in 6 years, roughly. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but I couldn't come up with the other person. And out of those, only 2 are still here. One became full-time and one is actively looking for another job because she's part-time. Now, that's a lot of turnover to begin with, and they all left primarily for full-time jobs or to go to college or something of that nature for the most part. But if you take into consideration that consistently people are telling me it takes them about a year to feel like they are really comfortable in their job, that's a lot of training time that we're spending. So it's like part-time on paper, it looks like it's a good, financial decision, but when you take into account how much training time and then having to rehire and do interviews on the back end, it's actually costing us more from that perspective. So I have been trying to do as much as possible to reduce expenses in other areas so that we can convert people to full-time, which, as you know, is very expensive. It's not just a matter of the dollar per hour cost. So that's why, Carla helped me out, and that's what we were able to come up with, and that's why our part-time is so low right now.
This is making a part-time, full-time.
Correct. And with this, the part-time, that's actually only 8 hours a week, which is going to be very difficult to hire for. But again, I was asking for the minimum I thought that we actually needed. Like, if you could triple that, we would have a lot better chance of hiring somebody and having them stay for a while. So
What's the overall increase? 3.1%?
It's like 3%.
And that includes the 1.5% raise?
Well, 2.8%. Yep.
Not bad.
And Jill, I see travel went down a lot.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, I don't anticipate that we'll be going to a lot of the conventions that we are going to.
Yeah, everything that's
Yeah.
been made virtual is so much cheaper. So
Right.
COVID closed downs continue.
So I left it a little bit in there just in case there was something we really did need to travel, but for the most part,
So why wouldn't you request us to triple it?
because
Put that in here.
because I try to start with the minimum possible. I know there's limited funds overall, so it's just not my personality to ask for a lot up front. And if we can't hire somebody for this, then I'd come back and be like, okay, here's the reasoning why I need actually more. So to just be like, I need more because it's a good idea.
I understand. Everyone has different perspective on it. So right now you're 2 full-time people, yourself and one other?
Right now, we are 4 full-time.
Oh, 4. Okay. I'm sorry.
So this extra part-time to full-time would make 5 full-timers. But they are open.
Yeah, the hours, I was gonna say, the hours make it challenging for
Yeah.
sure, and I'm definitely in favor of, I mean, a lot of your costs are fixed, with the facilities, the building, obviously, the actual materials and connections. So, yeah, it isn't a significant increase to the residents when you can be open more hours, for sure.
Oh, that's a note I'll take. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I'm just,
No, go ahead.
let's make sure you're good.
What? I got one question.
Yeah.
Why is, and this may be the call, why is electrical services and water sewer in her budget? It's not in many of the other ones. It's in a few, but not.
I'm not sure,
Separate building.
like animal control, library, and that might be it.
I didn't see it on that.
Have
And
their
I didn't
own
see it on
budget
Parks and
for it?
Recs. Yeah.
That's-
Roger's probably right. They're in separate buildings.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not on a shared meter or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but they're like the only 2 that have their
It's a
own.
little redundant when the county has to pay the county, though.
It is. I always feel a little weird writing a check to treasurer of Amelia County.
Yeah.
I've asked that, like,
Yeah.
why do we do this? Can't we just work it out in the system? But
Not one
if we truly want to reflect the revenue expenses.
Not one side and the other Dominion, Virginia. It's not 2 different providers.
There are a few that are on South Side, but mostly are on Dominion. Some of the pump wells, like the water and sewer things, and I think our welcome sign up on 360.
Yeah, that's.
Those are on South Side. The fire departments are South Side. Everyone else is Dominion. But the library is Dominion. I don't know, David. The answer is I don't know.
Okay, I mean,
But I'm sure there's a reason it was set up that way, and I can look into it.
no, we can't save on, we gotta pay for power, but it looked a little weird.
Yeah. So I appreciate Ms. Hicks joining. What financially transpires with the fundraising that occurs? So, we know about the books, the used bookshop, things like that. Y'all are often raising money for the library. Sorry.
Can I clarify?
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Hicks is on the library board of trustees. The trustees are not allowed to fundraise.
Right.
It has to go into like state code, and I don't remember it all. I just know that fact.
Okay.
The Friends of the Library are a completely separate entity. They're a 501c3. They have the bookstore and they do fundraising.
Okay.
But because they're a separate 501c3, they get to choose how to spend their money, even though like their mission is to support their library.
Okay. Thank you.
How they do that is up to them.
What have they thank you.
They pay for the summer reading program. So they give us about $2,500 a year, roughly, for all of our summer programs.
Thank you. Thank you. That was my question.
That is a very,
Right.
that is a very common confusion between the trustees and the Friends.
Okay.
Like, yeah, very definitely.
Thank you.
And since we're talking about library, Jill, tell them about, so they made some cool purchases with the CARES funding that'll enhance the summer programs, and a lot that you could do virtually too, but
Yeah.
like a big soundboard and all this.
Yeah,
stuff over there.
if you haven't seen our recording room, it's been really helpful. The quality of our productions has gone up a lot. Unfortunately, because of the CIP stuff we've been doing and the budget stuff I've been prepping, I haven't gotten to learn how to use everything as quickly as I had hoped, but we have at least the infrastructure there to really be able to do a lot. Yeah, it's been good.
You got your outside return.
People have been begging that for decades, like at least a decade.
Very different than, and it's got the space for different types of media.
Yeah.
That was the chairs as well. So yeah, some
People are
good,
very, very happy with that.
some excellent things that have transpired over the past year.
Indeed.
Go ahead. All right, well, I think a couple of us taken a note on the additional part-time as a need. And obviously noted your change of part-time to full-time, and we're not giving answers on things today because we're still in the gathering all the departments, and then we need to see how everything looks in total.
So just for giggles, will you triple that part-time wage and see what the overall increase is? Just make it like 21,000.
Just put it in.
Yep,
as
that
21.
number, and then see what the total increase is. Oh, you can't just do it right there?
I gotta do it in the editor.
Oh,
You still want me to do all that?
you're in the viewer?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, in the editor, you
I can
can
do
lay
it.
out the graphs.
Do it once you give me a link.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We good?
Yes, appreciate it. Sorry. Yes, thank you both for your time today. We appreciate it. I'm good. Good. I only wanted to bring this one. I wanted to bring Taylor about some things.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello. All right, well, as you know, we are recording and streaming, so I'd like to make sure everybody's aware. Thanks for coming over today. We are just looking through and primarily want to talk about things that have increased, that you're projecting an increase or a decrease. And then even if you haven't listed it in here, if there are any needs that you think you need, but just haven't felt comfortable yet putting into the budget, we'd love to be able to talk about those as well.
Okay.
We did get your letter that you sent over. Thank you for that. It was, so that's a good starting point for us. And then the floor is yours.
Well, basically, yes, I've got printers. They're coming up on 6 years old this spring. And they gave us a fit through the past deadline and we had to make several service calls. So in order to keep up with the day and day office conditions and all that, it'd be nice to upgrade all that. I did get a quote, which quotes only last about 30 days. And they quoted me roughly around $5,200. And Carla and I talked, given the pandemic and whether or not more and more factories may shut down or less people, the price could go up, it could come down. So I gave a little cushion since it will be another 4 months maybe before we can even get them if it is approved by you all to put in our budget. Computers, I was able to get 2 more desktop computers, but the other 4 are coming up on 6 years as well. So things are slowing down a little bit and making it a little more difficult to do work. We got the laptops from the COVID, yay. But I don't foresee them being able to be a good thing at the counter to wait on customers. Now, I did talk with Sean Stern and he said we can get docking stations because we have double screens on our counters to allow for taking payments and being able to release DMVs and run credit cards on the other screen. He said roughly it would cost about the same. What did I say? 2,500. He said roughly it'd be about the same to get 5 docking stations and we could use the 4 laptops then. So roughly.
The flexibility.
Yeah. To do either way.
It's really high. I use nothing but docking stations and the ones I use are like $80 a piece.
He said something about $450 in order to be able to use the docking station to get the correct cables and all that to be able to use the double screens because he said you don't want the laptop open while you're trying to use it. So
I use my laptop and it's closed laying on the table and I have 2 screens and there's a little docking station. It's not, you don't put the laptop into it. You just have a cube that you plug everything into and it's $80.
Yeah, we ordered ours from Dell. I think they were less than $100.
Yeah.
We can look into it.
okay,
Get a quote
yeah,
from
so,
Dell.
yeah. So that I mean, I'm
But Sean knows more about it than I do. So if it's not.
well, and that's why I asked him. I mean, he didn't give me a
Yeah.
professional quote. We were just talking and how to work it out. The only other thing that I think would really help the citizens is to be able to get the glass door to the office more handicap accessible with the button. We have a lot of elderly customers. They don't like using online. They don't like the mail system. You know, they've got their walkers, their canes, and we have to go out right often and hold the door open for them. And I just think it would be a benefit to everyone to be able to get that done.
And what was the quote on that? Did you get it?
3,200. So that's added into repairs and maintenance right here.
32.
Yeah, that was from Jerry Wayne. Carla and I did talk about it. We weren't really sure if that should come from like within my budget or public works budget. So we wanted to make y'all aware that I put it in there, but we weren't sure where it should actually come from.
Daryl yesterday.
Okay.
So other than these 3 items that you detailed in your letter, you don't really have any material changes in your ongoing budget.
No,
You feel good about staffing,
yep.
all that?
Pending the salary study. That's why I didn't put anything in for step increases because I would really like to see the results of that.
When is that supposed to be finished? Do you know?
I asked the other day and I heard Holly say April
April?
is the goal, but yeah.
Looks like they're a little behind on it.
I think she said April. I'll ask
yeah.
again.
Cool.
So that's it for me.
I mean, your 3 things, I'm going to round up to 12,000 because you'll understand why in a second. Yeah, we're under budget for this current. Our budget is running better in the current cycle, way better in the current cycle than we expect. Why do we not just move forward with these 3, which are not at all a large amount of money, and pay it while we have the funds versus continuing to increase?
I was going to say, if she needs printers 2 months ago, why are we waiting till July to get her printers? I was thinking that.
Because I didn't want to come to a board meeting and ask for an appropriation.
But I mean, if you need this, I mean, I understand you're getting in your slow time, but I mean, if you need this stuff to function.
Well, actually, not really. Second notices are going out
Oh,
in 3
okay.
weeks, and the due date for that would be March 31st.
I mean, in general, I always say one department can go over their budget if I look at the general, I mean, the auditors want to make sure we're not overspending per fund. So if we can identify, oh, this department's going to save a lot for whatever reason, then Stephanie can borrow
Just
the money.
reallocate it from one account to another, can't you?
But if we can find it free, that somebody's going to say, I don't need that $9,000 or whatever, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, because I mean, I even reduced for upcoming year, travel, convention, education, because we're doing it virtual now, which is great. I love it.
I mean, we never hired an ED director, so you could take it out of there. Right?
Yep.
So how much are you under, like when you talk about travel and that kind of, how much are you under in your current budget cycle?
Actually, I haven't looked at it that close, but
That'd be ideal. Like if
That's
you're
what I was-
saving enough in travel and education, then
You might have it there.
okay.
might already be there.
All right, so, okay, that's obviously three of us that spoke. You,
Yeah, you'll just way less than,
that's fine. I'm just making sure we
you do a
don't.
capital improvement.
Right. I think it would be much better to be able to just do it while we have the money. Because that money kind of, I mean, it just goes back into the fund at the end of the year. It doesn't really
Right.
help us in any other way. If you're going to spend it next year,
It's what you can
now
spend
you're
next year.
still spending it from the same pot of money. Yeah, let's see if we can proceed with those. Now, if we end up needing an appropriation or anything formally signed, you hear the support of the board, bring it back to a future meeting. But if you're, particularly if you're under budget enough at this point, you know, let's definitely grab that, start with that.
okay. All right. So we can meet up and
Yeah,
get together
I was
about
gonna
that
say,
next
we'll
week and
adjust her FY22 budget if you can plan
And
on
then
getting.
for the door, you know, that's an easy, if Daryl's under, I mean, that's his budget.
Yes.
It probably has $3,000 in that, you know, run that through his.
Right.
I mean, Jerry Wayne, he, the little handle at the top, he tried to adjust it to make it a little bit lighter, but my office is the only one with still full glass door and it's heavy. It's heavy.
I think we're all in agreement with
You don't
that.
have to sell that.
Really not.
How do we not do the door? I mean,
I don't.
you gotta have people get in there. It's gotta be somewhat.
It should have been done when we did the first round. We just missed it.
Right.
I'd say like put the door on this time and just take care of all three of those projects.
I would love to say, okay, I think.
Sounds good to me.
Support in there.
Great.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in general, we're talking about here, and this goes to our conversations we've had on CIP and others too. I don't think we want the board to have to be in a position of looking at $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 purchases, particularly when there's room in it. I think we need to look at our processes that say, how do departments request something intra budget cycle? You know,
Well, and like you were talking earlier about, you know, I do think it's a great idea to set up some sort of equipment, you know, every couple of years. I mean, like you said, I mean, going on 6 years, it's getting tough. And the new printers, they'll actually be able to work with the laptops as well. So be more efficient to be able to print from those now too. So that's what I'm looking for.
good.
I think it's important we use the laptops with a docking station though, because if you don't and they just sit closed, they don't get updated.
Yeah.
And it's a problem.
Okay.
And one thing Stephanie and I have been talking about, and a little bit with Laura, but there's a package that Bright offers. It's just like an upgrade. BII.net is what it's called. It's got a commissioner's function, a treasurer's function, and a finance function. And I know when we originally got the quote, Stephanie and I said we could really benefit from what it offers. And Laura was kind of like, I could take it or leave it. Like, she wouldn't mind having it, but she doesn't have to have it. But you get a better cost if all three of us get it. It might be a better cost if even two get it. So I was looking to do that soon too within our current budget.
Sorry, what is it?
It's called BAI.net, and so for the finance module, the reason I want it is because we have majority people getting direct deposit, but we still, I mean, y'all get them, stuff the envelopes with the check stubs and that's just so outdated. I want to just be able to email it to somebody, because we also have people when they're going to get a loan on a house, they call and say, can you give me a copy of, my last 3 check stubs? Really, I mean, a lot of places have where you have all that at your fingertips when you need it, self-serve. So this module, that's how it would help the finance department. It comes with other things too, but that's what I want it for.
Every
And I
time I
know
get my check
Stephanie-
stub in the mail, I think,
You're like, why?
I'm like, this is a dollar
I
cost right here.
know.
Like, I mean,
Me
just
too.
stamp the envelope, the printing, and your time.
Every time we're stuffing it, I'm like, why?
Like, is that a
You gotta
legal
do
thing? Do you
something.
have to do that?
No,
What?
Fill out the stuff.
the mail.
No, you can email it.
Okay, that's all.
Well, that's what this program would do, is let us email.
It would make it more efficient. I mean, like, it would put the bills online, actually, and people could pay directly from there
Yeah, what's the cost?
too.
Was
Oh
it not
gosh, what-
7,000 for all 3 modules? Is
Per
that?
year?
No, that's the-
Upfront.
No, I don't think it is.
I've got the quote on my desk, but it's from a year ago.
But it did have like a $3,000 annual per module yearly.
Mhm.
It does sound really high, but there's so much more features.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the opposite impression.
Oh.
It sounds really low.
Yeah, what are we paying?
Oh.
Stamps and envelopes?
Yeah, to me, it sounds really worth it.
Manual
like,
labor.
Just for manual labor. It takes 50
Hey, I
hours.
go back to, we've talked as a
Yeah.
group, citizens. So if you could get the tax bills online, number one, they're accessible 24 hours a day. Citizens have access to that. Right now, they are limited to your open hours, Monday through Friday, calling or stopping in. What a huge, for $7,000 right there, I think that benefit to the citizens is worth it. Your time savings, fewer calls, fewer visits, that will decrease the speed at which you need to add an employee in the future.
Yeah.
Save you time, effort.
I could pay it without any
The
labor.
employees get a huge benefit.
I mean, I would still have to mail bills anyway for the citizens, but I mean, and given the circumstances with the mail these days, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
I'm still getting payments that are postmarked December 7th.
I'm sure.
I got a Christmas card yesterday that was postmarked December 9th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We
I
can't-
mean,
we can't
I
have
understand.
online billing where people can opt in to not getting mailed bills.
I don't know
Crazy to mail anything nowadays.
I don't know if the BAI.net will allow that either, but there's more research we have to do, but we did get the quote because we thought maybe it would work great for the COVID money, but then we saw the service fee per year and we were like, well,
I
but
would just encourage you guys, and you and anyone else, when Carlos says, when I'm doing this, every time I do it, I'm thinking, why am I doing this?
Yeah,
Everyone in the county should be thinking,
yeah.
what can we do to fix that?
I mean, it's got some sort of link where the citizens can directly make like a credit card payment right there, and then it just automatically upload it to what we have here in the office. So that's also less manual work to have to
Absolutely.
input it in too, which would allow time to do other things that we need to do, like reconciling more accounts and things like that. I'm all for it.
Okay. Carla, there's at least enough interest to consider, will you follow up with us with details on upfront costs as well as any annual
Yes.
continuing fees?
Yeah, we'll get an updated quote for BAI too. We can price it out. We can ask Laura if she wants to get in on it and just because it's a different cost if you do just one module versus all 3 together, or maybe just 2.
Yeah, and it's been like,
It
what,
comes as a
6
package.
months since we got the last quote, I
It's been a
think.
while, yeah.
Would that benefit the water system, paying for water
Yeah,
bills? How does that work?
You ought to do it countywide,
Okay.
eliminating mail anytime we can.
It's a good question. Because utilities wasn't part of that, but
Because I'm,
But
Treasurer-
utility is related
Right.
I
to
don't
my software as well. So yes, they would be able to pay their utility bills.
like it's
Yeah,
$1,500.
Grab it all up in one out the library.
I'll get some more research on that. I'll call another locality too and really find out the most benefits or all the benefits that it offers.
I think it's clear, but in case anyone lost the conversation who might be viewing,
16.
none of us are talking about eliminating people being able to get things through mail, just giving them alternative methods. And if they opted not to get it in the mail, that would be their choice. But Yeah, and I think you have a great point, David, on with the water and sewer. I mean, you're talking over there, you've got Stacy as the one person on the phone. Like, anytime you can cut down the number of visits or phone calls, you free up more of her time. And again, you're reducing how fast you're gonna need more employees. And then we've looked at, I mean, that's a huge cost right there.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Does that make you happy?
Sure.
What prevents us, or how should I phrase this? Why do we not bill taxes twice a year? Or could we bill taxes twice a year to improve cash flow?
You can.
What's involved in it, or what are the reasons we wouldn't?
Well, obviously proration is going to be Laura's part because she does all the assessing, so she would have to talk about that. I do know localities that prorate the real estate twice a year, but the personal property is only once a year. And in talking with other treasurers, that are twice a year, they said there's only one benefit to it, and that's a huge payout when you first do it. After that, it's just a pain. You almost have to double your staff. You almost have to double the amount of paper. Everything's like doubled. So instead of once a year, everything's doubled. So that's twice the collecting. That's twice the delinquencies. Everything is twice. So we've got tax deadline in December. Like some of them are maybe June 1st and November 1st. And so, but by the time they're done with their November and December, they're starting to do their delinquent taxes, but then their next deadline is here and now they got to do more delinquent taxes. I don't really see a benefit to it. We do still offer the prepayment. People can come in and pay all year long anytime they want to. So some want a bill, some don't want a bill, some just want to do it and
So it would actually be
get it over
a
with.
cost to the county too.
In my opinion, yes, from what I've heard from other localities that have it.
Yeah, if we keep doing everything by mail, that's the case. We could get it online,
Then that might be different.
pushing a button instead of
Right.
stuffing envelopes.
But the prepayment option is, if you're even moderately responsible, if you pay in June.
Yeah, because we're sending the second notices and then they're due March 31st. And then after that date, then that's when I start with the DMV and the debt set up and doing more delinquent collections. So then I've got between April and September, and then the bills are going out again. So
I just think for a lot of, number one, from the county, from a cash flow point of view, it helps, but a lot of people don't budget. And they get this huge bill at the end of the year, right around Christmas time, and it's difficult. And if they got two smaller ones, I think we'd be better off. We wouldn't have as much delinquent tax.
it is, and I've noticed in Amelia, a lot of people wait to be able to file their federal and state taxes, and they use that to pay it, but then it's already delinquent, so they've already gotten all this penalty added to it. So, but then we've got a lot, as soon as they get their bill, I mean, I've got customers that will get it out of the post office box, and they are in the office paying it right then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm only required to give 2 weeks before the deadline to send the bills, but I give like 3 months. So, and we encourage customers to go ahead and start paying when they get it. Get it paid down as far as you can, because the more you pay it down, that's the less penalty you're gonna have to pay.
Unless it's your first year, you should pretty much know what's coming. And if you own a house, first year's a surprise, but after that,
Well, and if you're your first house, you're more likely, you're most likely having a mortgage where it's being escrowed too.
Yes, mine is.
Do we recover? What's the percentage of recovery on the delinquents? Do we get most of what we need back, or we still?
Yeah, I mean, you're always gonna have delinquency no matter what. People move, they don't know how to call and change their address. They think if they do it at DMV, that changes it everywhere. Not true. And so then we still got bills sitting out there. I don't really know a percentage because we're still collecting delinquency all the time. Now, using the taxing authority consultant services, the collection agency has really improved the delinquent collections since we started going with them with personal property in 2012.
Yeah, I think if I remember right in the book, it looks like the trend is we have actually gone down and.
Yeah, I mean, like this year, that's why I was able to move some more, like professional services in the budget. That's for our DMV bill from where we place the DMV holds. You can't renew your registration at DMV because you got delinquent taxes, and DMV tells them that, then they come and pay.
Right.
but in the past year, they have really come down. I mean, the collections were up more from this deadline than I've ever seen. So I don't really know what's happening, which means the delinquency percent is probably going to come down.
Which is the opposite of what we thought because
Yeah.
of COVID. So it's really kind of weird, but
It's really
good.
weird.
It's good.
It's been trending that way over like the last three, I think since 2017, I think, or 18, whatever. When I looked in the,
Yeah, 18 was worse, I think, than 19. The delinquency there would have been more than what it is now, but.
yeah,
I mean, we're recouping costs now that, the county attorney, Don Ford, that was doing the real estate, he retired and he wasn't as on top of doing real estate sales. I mean, we had 1 in 5 years, I think. And here I am getting ready to probably hold another one come March or April.
Well, I know it's not the total, but just looking back to what you had prepared for us in December when we were looking at this, in the last 4 years, as of that first part of December, you had requested, we had already received as a county 84%, 85, 83, and 85%. You know, so you're getting all but 15% by the deadline. And then you talked about a good portion comes in right after that. That number is going to actually be off because of the fact that, like you said, many of them are still coming in that were postmarked.
Mhm.
If you were already at 85%, which was your highest in 4 years by that deadline, you're going to be the highest then with anything else added in 4 years. So I'm sorry. All that says to me, doing a great job, and that's good for the citizens too, because like you said, they pay on time. They're not paying penalty and interest, which we don't want them to. Yeah.
I don't either.
Right. Good. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
We'll move forward with a couple
All right.
things for now, and then we'll explore the BAA. What is the?
BAI is what Bright is,
BAI.
Bright Associates Inc.
Okay, thank you. I just make sure I'm
It's like an online version. So it puts it out
I
there.
remember the acronym.
Yeah.
BAI. I wrote it down wrong. Okay.
Okay. All right.
you.
Great. Thank y'all. Have a good afternoon and weekend.
Two.
All right, let me pull up Laura.
What time is she supposed to?
so that's fun.
On, she's on, she is.
I was just saying, Laura and Stephanie are still on.
Good morning. Yeah, we just left it up and walked out.
Oh, that's fine. I'm used to that's.
I just thought about it. I'm like, wait, she's right there. Oh, yeah.
Usually somebody walks in the door and I'm like, okay, that's our time to wrap somebody up.
So this, you can put pictures here and, we can have the individual departments.
Yeah, I saw an org chart thing too, which
Mhm.
does it link everything correctly, or is it just by
Well-
department?
No, I mean, it should, you'd have to upload it for each department, but
Yeah, but good thing.
I have a main one on the main site.
Okay.
I'm still learning, Roger.
Is that the new
This is
website?
great. No.
Yeah, well, not the website, but it's like a budget website.
Oh.
Yeah.
ClearGov.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
We're moving off spreadsheets.
Yes. Moving off of PowerPoint. Nobody likes to watch it.
So you heard our conversation then since you were online about the BIA
Yes.
online
Yes.
service. Stephanie said she recalled it not being as beneficial for your office as it is for those two.
I really don't know anything about it, but when Carla asked me about it, I said, I don't mind joining just to reduce the cost. But I've reached out to Powhatan, Cumberland, and people like that are older veterans than I am, and asked them, and they said it was really a bigger benefit for the treasurer than it was for us, that they had it, but they didn't utilize it. So, I mean, I just don't know enough about it to
But
say
they are
for
older,
myself.
unless technology.
Possibly. I don't know. Jamie and Powhatan's pretty smart.
Oh, I mean, just a lot of times people are less adaptive.
Very true. Very true.
Well, maybe along with that, the updated quote, we just get kind of that one pager of, the benefits for each.
Oh, yeah. I think we've got that.
Excellent. All right. Well, you heard the spiel. We're online because you've been watching us online. So I have to warn you of that. And you want to walk us through changes and any of your needs and requests?
Sure. So actually, my request has gone down from last year. And that's mainly because
Those as well. Thank you.
the main reason for that is because I got 4 new computers last year. So I'm only proposing to change out 1 this year. And then the only thing that went up would be the professional services, and that's for building permits. This year with COVID, everybody built something. So the permits that we have this year are double the amount they were in the past, and we have to pay the appraisal company $35 a piece to work those. Even though that goes up, that means more revenue comes in because obviously the more stuff that's built, the more stuff we're going to assess. So that is an increase, but it should see revenue come back because of it. And that's really the only thing.
So if Richard charges a permit fee, that money isn't used to pay the appraiser?
I mean, not directly. It's kind of like the conversation we were having yesterday. It goes into the general fund, but he already has the money to pay the appraiser in the budget, or Laura does. I mean, it's built into the budget because it's something you know is going to happen anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your office is collecting the money and then her office is sending it out, her
Well,
budget.
Yeah, we send them down to the treasurer's office to pay it, but yeah, it's
Okay.
coming in from building permits.
Cool.
Mhm.
So if we give Stephanie a door, you're gonna ask for one too?
Would it be beneficial? Let's ask it differently. Would it be beneficial for your office to have the automatic door?
I'm not gonna say that it's completely unneeded, but usually one of us will like jump up and grab the door.
The treasurer's office has a lot more traffic than the commissioner,
I mean,
you know,
you
during
don't
tax
necessarily
time.
just say so. I'm just saying, I would hate to give her one and then say, hey, I want one too, after we've already finalized it.
My door doesn't weigh as much as Stephanie's door weighs. Her door is heavy.
Is yours push in?
It is.
Yeah, and hers is.
Right,
pulls out.
right.
So that's a difference too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
And I did notice, if you look at the salaries, it looks like there's no 1.5% in. There is the 1.5% built on current salaries, but I think Laura had put in, when you're under the personnel policy and you have an annual review, that's your opportunity to get a step increase, and that had been budgeted for last year. That's why this is higher. Yeah, I don't know if it didn't happen or what, but there is a 1.5% increase built into this figure on current salaries.
On the whole salary.
Mhm.
No questions for
I feel
me?
like you're in a good shape then, huh? No other, nothing, okay.
Anything you could use, would like to have in the future?
The computer, I do in my ADP equipment, I did add a little bit because I'd like to have a better scanner for scanning in personal property forms. We used to go through those and manually alphabetize over like 11,000 forms, which took like 2 weeks to do. Now we scan them in and we have equipment that will alphabetize it for us. So I'd like to have a better scanner. The one we have is kind of low grade, and after about 100 sheets, you have to pull out all the rollers and clean it because it's not really a heavy duty scanner. But that was, I think, when I looked at that, like $700. So not,
And that's it.
It's not
You
it,
got that
yes.
factor.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
Seems very reasonable. And you heard us talking about Stephanie's. I mean, most of the departments are under budget for this year.
Yes.
You're under budget, you certainly have the ability to go buy a scanner.
Now,
earlier,
right,
too.
right.
So
I
I
usually,
think there's habits built in right now about people just waiting for the new budget cycle, and you need something that helps people do their job better, you know, and it's within the budget. We want to make sure.
And one reason
Okay.
a lot of people are under budget is because we were able to use CARES funding on things we needed anyway, but we
Yeah.
couldn't
Right.
determine like
It's not-
because of COVID.
Right.
But we would have needed it even if COVID didn't exist. So that's not typical at this time of year, but it's happening.
But take
Right now,
advantage
yes.
of what does exist.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I'll wait until like the 1st of June and calculate out what the rest I need for the month is and see what I have and then maybe order something then.
Well, the disadvantage of that is then it's, by that point, it'll already be in the budget for the next year.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The less that we put into next year's budget, then the less likely we are to either need to raise taxes or say no to other things that we couldn't fund.
True.
As much as we can fit into the current, already approved, already funded budget, then we don't have to carry those numbers forward.
Okay.
That's my theory.
Yep.
You know, because we've got a couple groups, like we just talked library, there's things we need that hasn't been factored in right now. The more money we can free up from other places, ideally we can support their needs and not have to raise taxes or not have to raise taxes as much. Yeah. Because every time we end with better than our budget, like that feels good, but it means you likely didn't fund something that you would have liked to because you thought the money wasn't there, or you increased taxes on people to pay for what you thought you needed. And so it's better really not to end up under budget in this case, because it meant there were lost opportunity costs and the cost to the citizens.
Okay. So looking at what I currently have, I actually could probably cut all of the ADP equipment and cover that with my current budget.
Wow.
Great.
I'll have to go.
Yeah, I mean,
can I just adjust these and give them back to you?
I'm doing the same thing with Stephanie, so I'll
Okay.
follow up with both of you.
yeah, and we're not trying to force you into, we're actually trying to say like, yeah,
Right.
it's a good benefit. You can get stuff earlier. Too.
Right.
Like,
I
4
understand.
months without having to clean those rollers every 100 pages. So.
It's true. That's true. Okay. Yeah, so I'll go back over mine. Because I know for the rest of the year, my travel and education, obviously, what I have left there I can use. So I'll go trim some of that and then get back with Carla.
Okay. That's good. Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Y'all have a good day.
All right.
Why?
Oh, back right on time.
This may be a dumb question. Why are we even debating having a handicap access door in a county building?
I agree.
Is that something,
Because we are ADA compliant. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Technically, we are, but to me, that doesn't matter. It needs to be
So that means we meet
truly
minimal
accessible.
requirements, apparently.
I don't know why the band administration one isn't on.
They all should be.
For
Should be.
Is that something we could get Daryl to look at the doors that need to go, people need to get into and kind of come up with just do them all and be done with it. And now we know everybody can get, last thing we want to do is hinder somebody from coming in the building.
Right?
I bet you,
Oh, what a refreshing.
it is.
When I
refreshing.
proposed this 3 years ago,
Okay, I will do a message to Daryl asking him to identify the ones that, and then bring us back a number on not just Stephanie's, but all. Does that feel that will be?
I'm sorry?
Minor social services.
Yes, we did that one.
Oh, you
You did do that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one from the main hall down here that goes into social services, we did.
Right.
So they can come up the walkway, open, go through a mechanized door, turn right, and go through another mechanized.
Well, you know what I observed people struggling with the Bethel building front door.
They all should be.
You know, we did all the early voting, which was great. People were in and out, and many people were not physically able to come. Oh, yeah. We'll ask them to identify all, and then bring us back that number. You're welcome to come up to the table. We're
20 years in the making.
Well, she's
Or if you-
until 10:40.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong order. Okay.
But Patty's in our office. I can go, I don't know if she's there now, but I can go see if she's over there and remind her.
Well, I have to read on, but if you're on time, you're late, so I'm here early.
Or we can just take Deborah.
Let's just go ahead.
Okay. Come on, Deborah, you're gonna come early. Okay, all right. Let me
I
bring
mean, at worst, Patty walks in the door and says, "Is that personal?"
Pardon me, I woke up with a head cold this
Oh, I'm
morning.
Let's hope that's all it is.
Yes, well, no fever, just runny nose and a scratchy throat. And I have had one shot of my COVID shots, so.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Yes,
More
thank you.
people that are getting
The
them.
health department.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming to join us today. I'm trying to remind people we are recording and live broadcasting.
Yes.
familiar and don't get caught off guard with that.
Okay.
Thanks for coming to talking us through. Carla's pulling up your current budget numbers that we've received.
Okay.
And we're asking people just to talk us through what you've forecasted to increase, any potential decreases, and then also any needs that you have that may not already be reflected in there, to talk through those.
Okay.
So,
Can I interrupt real quick? Just so if y'all are looking at this and you see two lines for salaries and we just, so Deborah oversees the registrar budget and then there's a second budget for electoral board. And just for the purposes of her department, I've combined the two. So,
Okay.
you know, those smaller figures are for the electoral board.
Right, on the wages, precisely. Okay, I met with my electoral board, when we met in December. And, we worked through the budget. We were doing our very best to stay as close to the budget we're operating under this year. And we came within a few $100s of that. Until I got to looking at equipment certifications. And we got several $1,000s out of that. That's the problem we're facing this year. Our ballot tabulators go out of certification July 1st. It is being worked on right now, but right now we have an open and don't know that the equipment that we presently have will in fact be recertified. It should be, but we don't know that.
That's a state decision.
That's a state decision. That is their certification of voting equipment process. The same thing is true for electronic poll books, which I did mention in my budget submission. I know that we need to replace those. We're working with very old equipment. We have no backups at this point because our two backups have failed. And not having a backup electronic poll book is a really uncomfortable position to be in. So there are.
That kind of thing, with the same discussion we've been having with the other people, is there any room in your current year's budget to do that now rather than asking to do it next year?
I may be able to do some of it, but.
Or can we take it from somewhere else to get it done this year?
Well, I come back to something that Carla mentioned to me early on, that there was that money in the old capital improvement that had not been previously used. And if that is available, that will alleviate a lot of the crunch that we're looking at now.
Yeah, that had been previously funded by 2 or 3 boards ago. Never happened, so we've been rolling it over. It's still there to use. It's an approved project, so.
So if I can get that moved open, available, then I can, deal with a good chunk of the necessaries. I'm going to have to purchase new electronic poll books.
It's approved.
Yeah, it's available.
Okay, well then that solves.
No action needed.
So you can get it all done before July?
Not all of it.
No.
Most of it. I would be with that and a bit of a squeak, and if I can rearrange some line items on my current budget, then I believe that I can meet most of that, certainly cover the cost of the new electronic poll books that we are going to need.
Good.
I'm waiting for a quote bottom line number from the vendor on that. So all in all, I think we should be in very good shape for this upcoming year by retaining the budgeted numbers from the current year and essentially moving those forward. I was trying to allow for things like we had to do return postage on ballots. Okay, we were reimbursed for that. That's on the table again. I don't know that we will get reimbursed for that again. So I left the postage number high, those kinds of things. Okay, let's just roll forward with the new legislation that's coming down. If we can maintain what we had this year, we should be fine. The only other thing that I would like to add to the discussion is space. And I know that's a problem for the entire county, but it really is an issue in our office. I don't have an office. I'm sitting in the middle of the room. And when I need to do a webinar, I have no place to do it. We don't have the room to really function when we're running in-person voting. We had, November was unusual, absolutely. Big election, lots of early voters, over 3,600 of them. It's about 100 voters per day, 6 days a week for that entire early voting. We didn't do anything but take care of voters coming in to vote. Anything else that needed to be done was done after hours. Part of that was because we didn't have the space where I could move, and so forth. So I'm kind of raising that space issue. I know we've got capital improvement planning coming up. And so, but I wanted to mention that because that is a budget consideration.
Do you have anything to do with the redistricting?
I will.
Is that going to be in next fiscal year or the year after? Do we know?
Don't know. And I have no idea.
So there's nothing in your.
There's nothing in my current budget to address any costs with redistricting. I am certain. No, I would be surprised if lines did not move, which means we will have to be doing updates. But that's a normal expected. I would hope that it's not going to impact the budget, but I don't know. I've not been through a redistricting before. So.
The repairs to the voting tablet, what we were talking about doing the capital, is that why the increases in the repair and maintenance?
Yes, I was given guidance for upgrades to use that line item.
That's fine. I just making notes where it was.
But we'll be getting rid of most of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. With that, I would like to think we would come very close to static budget over the 2 years.
Excellent.
You grab that 19, spend it on that upgrade and go from there.
Good.
Okay.
Wonderful news then. Thank you.
Okay, anything
Thank you so
else?
much. Thank you.
Okay.
You're doing the space. We just don't have a response for the space at this point, but we are aware.
It's not falling on deaf ears.
Correct.
No, I wasn't expecting one, but it is something that I felt needed to be mentioned, that we're talking dollars here. That's why I mentioned it, so.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I thank you. Okay, and,
You know each one of us, I've never met you. I'm Roger Scott. We've talked.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
talked, yes.
I got to meet last fall. I'm not doing, the people I need to introduce, then they're like, oh, I already know everybody. And the other. Okay.
David Phelps?
I'm
Okay.
Yes.
You know Sean?
Yes.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Well, this is great, and always, I have an open door, and stop by and say hello. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thanks, Deb.
All right.
All right, we can take a stretch break, and I'm gonna go run and see if Patty's over there or what's going on, and then choose the last one of the day.
While we take a break.
Sure.
It's right there. There you go. Right at or pull that down from the top like you did. Just take your cursor to the very top. Keep going up. There you go. There you go.
And then Carla, I think you have a digital. Oh, wait. Magic one.
I don't know why, because that's not how we get it. Thank you for joining. As you know, we're live broadcasting and streaming just so no one gets, or in recording, so no, you don't get uncomfortable with that.
Okay.
Thank you. And you look well prepared, so we'll let you get started. Appreciate it.
Sure. I guess I want to address the revenue end of things first. I don't know if you're all aware, and that's why I ran this off, that Waste Management actually pretty much supports our department. They pay us, I think it was 13,000 last year.
It's just,
Yes, yes. And attached is the section of the agreement that addresses that. It goes up every year according to some complex consumer price index calculation. Also, we get a grant from DEQ for our litter prevention and recycling program that runs somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 or $6,000 a year. What we did with it this past year was to hire a recycling technician. So that's what this supports. And I brought Emily with me because she's going to address the revenue on the stormwater and erosion control program, which currently does not support all of the programs.
So that's the colorful Excel printout. So I was taking a look at the erosion and sediment control fee. So anytime a project comes across our desk, if they meet certain thresholds, they have to participate in our erosion and sediment control program. So anything 10,000 square feet of land disturbance or greater. In order to 10,000 square feet or greater of land disturbance. Right, sorry, it's kind of hard.
I know.
So that would trigger their involvement in their erosion and sediment control program, which falls under county and state ordinance. Anything 1 acre of land disturbance or greater would fall under the stormwater ordinance locally and state. So there's fees involved with that. The goal of the fees, according to the Virginia legislation, is to cover staff costs to administer, because we have to do weekly inspections, inspection reports, talking to the contractor, talking to the Department of Environmental Quality. All of these things are taking staff time. So currently our fee for erosion and sediment control, we set that fee. On the stormwater side of things, we go based on the state. So we're not going to change since they're set by the state, and you kind of have to prove if you want to increase them, but we actually set our own erosion and sediment control fee. Right now, it's in red here, kind of in the middle of the first page. The fee is currently $100 for the first acre of disturbance, plus $10 an acre per each additional acre of land disturbance. What I've done is taken one of our projects as an example. It's a 6.59 acre site, and broken down about how long each weekly inspection takes, because it is a little bit on the smaller side, as well as any of the office time, such as reporting, how much that costs. The salary cost there does include overhead, such as travel, insurance, etc. The overhead was the median salary here is just the median salary of that range, plus the 1.25 times overhead that was based on the Small Business Administration number for overhead calculation. That comes out at about $30 an hour, a little bit more, but I use $30 an hour for ease of math and easy to see that. So the cost for 1 year of this type of project, the county staffing costs would be about $3,420. And I've broken it down to show that based on that county staff cost is not being covered by the erosion and sediment control fee and the stormwater permit fee. So my goal is to increase the erosion and sediment control fee to better cover the staff cost. And you can see how that breaks down. Right now, we're operating at a loss. In reality, this project has actually gone on for more than a year, so it's even more at a loss. So my proposal in green there is for $300 base fee. That's based on about 10 hours of submittal, which means, telling the contractor, here's the forms you have to fill out. I'm going to gather those. I'm going to get those to the right people. I'm going to have, meetings with you. So all of that may take roughly about 10 hours at $30 an hour. That's $300 for the base fee, plus $95 an acre, rounded up to the nearest acre. So if it's 6.59 acres, we would use $7 an acre, or 7 acres at $95. So that would have actually increased the county's permit fees that they're receiving. In this scenario, the permit shortfall would be about $7. So we're about breaking even. There is a caveat that there is also additional costs for third-party plan review. So what that means is I do everything on the inspection side, but we send the site plans, environmental plans to an engineer so that they can make sure they're meeting all of the stormwater regulations. There is a fee for that, so that is an additional cost, but just for county staff time, we will break about even if we increase the fees to that much. The other example I used was a larger site, 16 and a half acres. That's just a random number I came up with to give you an example. Because the stormwater fees are going to be a little bit higher for a larger project, we will come out a little bit more ahead. So it kind of will balance out between a smaller project and a bigger project. On the second page, there's a comparison of this fee.
Compared to other counties.
Yeah, so I picked Chesterfield, Powhatan, and Prince Edward just since they're, just directly bordering us. So you can see that we're still significantly cheaper than Chesterfield and Powhatan. It may be a little bit more expensive than Prince Edward because there's this $300 plus a $50 per acre. So it's maybe a little bit more expensive than Prince Edward, but still pretty comparable to a county of this size of rural nature. The comparison is assuming that those counties round up to the nearest acre. I'm not exactly sure if they do or not, but that's an assumption I was working off of. So that's what I'm proposing. I also made a note that for agricultural projects, I know the county's goal is to be ag friendly, so there is an option to either waive this fee, only charge a portion of this fee. It's really up to, your input as well. So that's what I have for you. Do you have any questions? I know that was a lot of numbers and colors and
It's
words.
a really great presentation. And I really thank you for acting proactively on this and thinking it through. Do you have any thoughts on the agriculture, like what you think would be good based on what you see, just either your own experience or what you see in other places?
Sure. So I'll tell you how we do it on the stormwater side of things. So when we charge a stormwater fee, DEQ has a schedule of what that looks like. We get 72% of that for our costs, and DEQ gets, I think it's 28. So I believe that's how it works out. I can double check that for you. But for agricultural projects, DEQ actually waives that fee because ag projects have to get so many other permits from DEQ for other things. They're saying, we don't want to hit you twice, basically. So that is a disclaimer, like the DEQ does waive the stormwater fee. So it could be an option to waive our erosion and sediment control fee for ag projects. That's an option, so that it's the same for both programs. The stormwater fee is a lot heftier than the erosion and sediment control fee.
You still have to do the same number of inspections in the agriculture case regardless?
Generally.
So the agricultural is already getting a 28% discount, if we look at it that way.
Because of the stormwater.
Yeah. In the case of stormwater.
Right, since they're not getting since DEQ doesn't charge that portion. And I can double check those numbers. I should have brought that with me, but so that's an option.
So what has to happen to make this happen? Do we have to have an ordinance change or?
I think we do, don't we?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Public hearing
So-
and ordinance change.
I'm not sure about the ordinance change. I don't think this is actually I think it's incorporated by reference,
Okay,
but not
yeah, I'm not sure.
written in there. I haven't seen it, but I can double check. But state regs do say that we have to have a public hearing to change fees like this. So I don't I don't really know how to do that, so I guess that would be up to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know if,
Okay.
I assume y'all have heard that Emily is leaving us.
Yes, this presentation made it even more,
I know.
even more unfortunate.
But I wanted to leave you guys with more money. More increases. Enough to cover staff costs.
Well, we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time you've been able to serve Amelia. We appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll look at scheduling a public hearing if y'all are interested in
Yeah, sure.
going forward with
Support
it.
Okay. All right, I think that sounds good.
Okay. As far as our budget, there are no big changes that we're requesting. We bumped up the salaries a little bit for anticipating to get a certified person in Emily's place that we're going to have to give them a little more money. Professional services, Emily hit on that. We have been in the red on that because of the plan review on our erosion and stormwater plans. So we bumped that up. And then we put a new vehicle into our budget that had been approved in the CIP. And then, of course, that, those projects were put on hold. We have 2 aging vehicles. So we really, a 2006 and then a Sheriff's Department 2016, I believe. 2013. Was owned by the Sheriff's Department before it came to us.
And it had some issues when we inherited it. We had to do some repairs.
And I know the Chevy has over 100,000 miles. I'm not sure about the Explorer, but
I think it does. I can double check on that.
so those are the main things and
So is Emily, are you not certified when you said we need to get a certificate?
she was not certified when she was hired.
But
she gained the certification while she was in our.
Losing a great employee and then paying somebody more to replace her when we could have paid her.
Well, I tried to offer her more to stay, but she had made up her mind.
So when with that salary proposal though for the new position, we compared to other counties in the area, Goochland, Powhatan, and Chesterfield. We took the same job classification that they have on their website and that salary and compared it to what it was here and try to make that more even competitive. So that's where that number came from.
Okay, thanks.
Y'all can try to twist her arm, but I wasn't successful.
Couldn't do it.
Done deal.
Oh, what?
So the program has grown to the point that we really need somebody to come in ready to just go with it and know what's going on. Emily basically was learning on the job and she did a wonderful job, but sometimes you can get in over your head a little bit when, if you don't have the background that you need for it.
Okay.
So why are all the benefits blank for this budget on here?
I printed this off. It's probably,
Oh, it is.
probably up in that.
So what's it look like up there? A 22% increase?
Because of the vehicle.
Yeah, the personnel is not really, I have a question for the website people. How come some departments are like separating out just the personnel and others aren't? But here, you can't really see the personnel increase, but Patty, I was looking at this. Why would I put an annual leave? Is that a mistake? You didn't tell me you were retiring.
No.
This probably shouldn't be here. I have a note to figure out why that's in here, but here's the other personnel costs.
Okay, so they're in there.
She just left it blank because a lot of people just say, here's the salaries, I
Right.
figure out the benefits.
Yeah, because I
which is
don't know
easy
how
enough.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't commented on this before. The workers' comp, that we've had a couple insurances like that one and was it disability? They've gone up significantly across the board.
yes.
Is
That's because it's based on, so our rate that we're charged is based on the prior 3 years of
They do an audit,
incidents.
yeah.
And we had a year with a lot. I say a lot, 6 or 7 claims 2 years ago, maybe. So it's driven the cost
Been
up.
on you
and-
for a while.
Yeah, yep.
okay.
And I base this off of our prior year audited amount that we end up paying. So we budget an amount, we pay it up front, and then they come audit us and we usually owe more. So built that in.
On this, you assume 25% load for overhead, and it's really 40, right? For our salaries,
Typically.
typically it's 40. So I want to tweak this before we
Okay,
change.
okay, I can do that. I'm not, overhead, I wasn't sure exactly how to calculate it.
Yeah, it's about 40.
Okay. So would you like me to recalculate that and see what it would do
Yes.
for
Before you
this?
do public hearing and close it, yeah.
And then go ahead and put in put in your recommendation for the agriculture.
Okay,
Obviously, as we proceed forward, we'll work through that, but
What is the
Give us a
current, what
starting
is the
point.
current agriculture?
the fee
Mm-hmm.
currently I believe for the erosion and sediment control, which is what we're doing, it's the same as everybody else. It's the $100 for the first acre and $10 for each additional
The
acre.
county portion, but they do get a 28%
They get a
discount.
20% discount.
So this, there's two fees that they pay. The stormwater fee, that's separate. That's where that discount, discount where DEQ waives that fee. And then the separate is the erosion and sediment control fee. So there is a discount, and I can double check and confirm if that percentage is correct. But there are some concessions made for ag on the stormwater side of things that say a commercial project might not get those same
From the
discounts
state.
from the state.
What about on the other side, from the state?
Erosion and sediment control,
Yeah.
they don't
Don't waive
charge
anything?
because that doesn't fall under their fee structure. It's just a local.
so we could consider, for example, just not changing the current fee structure for agriculture and increasing for non-ag projects. That could be an option, for example. You don't necessarily have to reduce it further from where it is, but you could exempt them from increases.
From the increase. You mean leave them at the hundreds?
Specifically for commercial construction. Rather than just, like if the
Yes.
Joe homeowner wants to, that's where I have problems. Like if homeowner wants to clear 3 acres of his land to make a bigger yard, and you're hammering him with a couple $1,000s.
So I will interject here. So for those situations, for single family dwellings, they don't fall under these same fees. They have to pay, I believe it's through the building department. It's a small, maybe $25 or $50 fee.
Oh, so this is just for commercial?
These
Or
fees,
large?
right, these are not for single family. So what I'm sorry, I should have clarified.
Okay, because that was my biggest concern.
That's part of I know it in my head and I forget to say that. Yes, so single family would not be falling under this. They go under a different set of fees and guidelines.
So it mainly, for that application, mainly would just be a farmer wanting to clear 20, 30, 40 acres. Then he would kind of fall in this, but unless we make those exemptions.
And the only time, and another caveat there, only time agriculture falls under this is if they're building a structure. So if they want to clear acreage for farming, cropping.
It's getting even better, okay.
So the ag has a lot of exemptions with stormwater and erosion and sediment control.
Right.
But they do still fall under them if they are building a structure. So say for example, they wanted to build a new barn. That would, and it disturbs, 10,000 square feet or greater, or that acre or greater, that's when they would fall under it. If they just want to clear something for extra pasture, they don't have to get a permit from us.
Okay.
So they are exempt from that, except for building a
The
structure.
theory there is because of the roof shedding water,
Yeah, so it increases your stormwater runoff.
hard surface versus ground.
Although the same amount of rain falls over the
Yeah, but
same
it gets
amount of.
absorbed in.
It is different though, what you've done is you've taken away surface area though that could be absorbed.
Right.
The same amount of rain, but now less land area.
Right.
So
Absorption.
it runs off instead of being absorbed.
Yeah, like with a
To a
parking lot and
point.
things like that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, there is, thank you for that clarification. There are some of those exemptions for ag as well.
Okay.
But I can look into that some more and kind of break down those, discounts like you said and see what we think.
When do you leave?
My last day is a week from today, but I told Patty, she's got my contact information. You can always, send me an email or call me.
And you already have the backfill posted? I think Taylor, yesterday it was already posted, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, we do.
All right, thank you. Great.
See if we can bring it back to do the presentation at the public hearing.
We didn't really address very much your request around the vehicles. We just talked at a very high level. But that was because we've had a lot of discussion on vehicles.
I'm sure.
Yesterday and today. And where we've landed is we want to do two things. One is take all the vehicle expenses like that out of the individual department budgets and consolidate them so we can kind of understand the bigger picture.
Sure.
And then also that Sean is going to follow up with Daryl and kind of look through the entire vehicle fleet, or the fleet inventory, and kind of understand our frequency of replacements, as well as kind of where we may be able to trade one from another.
Right.
So we understand, we see that, we're not ignoring you, just.
Gotcha. But that's something we've needed to do for a long time. I think it's just come up with a plan for.
Do you have any need for four-wheel drive? I mean,
Yes.
okay, so that would be a.
That is a little different on ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going up on the landfill site, and
Right.
off-roads more often, yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And biosolids and.
Yeah,
and,
construction sites that get muddy
constructions.
and
Mm.
you gotta still inspect, so
Yeah.
forward job, definitely.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you.
Appreciate it, very informative presentation.
Yes, you did a good job.
I like the ones that could bring us revenue opportunities.
That's great. Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah.
Last one.
Should I, are we done discussion? Should I stop it?
Well, I've got to actually close out the
Oh, you do.
meeting though. So, while that's the last scheduled presenter, any other conversation anyone needs? Okay.
I think we need to look at the telecommunications. It seems like that's a big thing throughout this whole process is, we need to get a handle on that.
Roger and I have been discussing that for a year.
I mean, I'm not a telecommunication, but I see dollars and.
But the thing that concerns me is decisions are being made, and equipment and networking and everything has already been decided and put in place to change telecommunications. And we weren't involved in it at all. The whole thing with River Street and networking, and
True.
whether we go with Verizon or fiber or whatever it is, I forget the name of it, connects. All that is kind of already happening. So I'm not sure what there is to look at.
Just personally, I think this goes back to the IT role. I think there's not a designated person that can run all of those, look farther out and understand what's coming and develop a plan.
We should have a county-wide IT strategy.
Yeah.
I think it would save us money in the long run.
Yep.
And even the computers replace versus repair or upgrade.
It's even like Lee Harrison's thing with the two offices not being able to see each other's data. There's ways to do that with hardware and software.
Yeah, security.
Rather than having another whole account. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I think with unnecessary or avoidable expenses, we actually probably pay the salary of the technology person anyway. We're just seeing it trickle out in small places.
Right.
And while that might only be an offset in costs, it decreases efficiency and productivity often too, because people don't have the best situation to go.
We could even, if we hire an IT person, we could collect data and do an ROI analysis on that person, and they would pay for themselves. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Well, they almost pay for themselves just in the offset of the contractor fees we talked about.
Yes, that too. But I mean, in improvements, they could.
I'm like, yeah, you get a double. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for a productive session today. Unless anyone feels differently, do we have a motion to continue this meeting for our final scheduled department review until January 28th at 9 a.m.?
Okay, I move we continue this meeting till January 28th at 9 a.m.
All right, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. I got it.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, we are done for today and continue to next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Yep, thank you.